things that I thought that I could do within the term limited inspector would be able to, when in 1995 when I started, it was obvious first 6 months, and the technology was just starting to, there were still a lot of people in the legislature at that time that had bought their own computers. In fact, I brought my computer when I came to the legislature. I brought my computer and worked with it for a while. But it's not like it now. We've got computers on the desk in the session and so forth. But with having, we've got to be able to, within the Medicare component, be able to find, because we know that's where so much waste, fraud, and abuse takes place. We've got to be able to have a system that we can manage that. Well, we're still working on getting that system, Mark. We don't have it up yet, and I talked to people here, Tom Niehaus and I did about a month ago, and they said that they had hoped to have the new process ready to roll out, but they were afraid it wouldn't be ready by the time my term limits were up in December this year. So it just goes to show you there's some things you can work and work and work, and there's still plenty of work left for the people that replace me. And I can, on the list, another one in the 124th General Assembly was Senate Bill 76. That was Mortgage Broker Act. And that rattled lots of cages, especially in commerce, because they felt that they had their own little world and they just run things they wanted to. And when we said, no, you need to have a better form of license, and people need to be, those licenses need to be accredited, and that needs to be structured in a way. And so it took some resistance, and but we finally, in fact, if you remember Doug White, when I replaced Doug as president of the Senate, he was appointed by the governor to be the director of commerce. And Doug, when in that position, we were making good progress. But when Doug, in that time that he was director, was able to help us put those final touches to really structuring that mortgage broker, and we passed the bill, but it took a lot to get those things that were in the bill done. And so I think if we hadn't have got that done, I think we'd have had a lot more problems than we're currently having with foreclosures. And then I can't leave out 126th General Assembly. You know what I'm going to talk about, House Bill 66, and that was the tax reform package. And we had been working, myself, Kurt Schering was in the House at the time, and a number of people, and Tom Zano, that was the tax commissioner at the time. We've been putting a lot of work into tax reform and talking about how critical it was to get where business is able to take these resources, a lot of which they are paying taxes for, especially tangible personal property tax. It just was siphoned money from small business that otherwise, if the taxes were not as high as they were, they would have been able to put that, reinvest that in their companies, and as a result grow, and that creates more jobs. And so the things we looked at in the tax reform package that we had to do was we had to make a major change in the way that we tax tangible personal property. And that was machinery, equipment, furniture and fixtures, and inventory. And when you put all those things together, that's really survival for a small business if they can't control those things, especially when you have high tangible personal property tax base at the state level. So we addressed that, and we addressed the corporate franchise tax issues, and we addressed the personal income tax issues. And we phased in each one of those programs in 5 years, and to achieve each category. And as you know, we've been successful now. We phased out the tangible personal property tax. We phased out the corporate franchise tax. And we had started the last year of the phase out, on which would have completed the 21% personal income tax reduction. And the governor decided that he was going to freeze that after it had already kicked in. And you remember the governor and I had lots of discussion about that.
Yep.
And we'll probably have lots more about it. But so we want the last year, I think about 4.2% of the 21% is not now implemented. It had started, and employers were stopped taking those deductions. Now they've started again based on the legislative, I think it's House Bill 183 that we had lots of talk about.
What about regrets? What are your biggest regrets?
I'm sorry?
What about regrets? What are your biggest regrets in the past 15 years?
I think it's the ability really to manage Medicare, Medicaid, and the waste, fraud, and abuse that falls into those categories. And there's so much technology, and they talk about silos, being able to, the different phases of the medical process. You silo that so you can track those things and what doctor did and so forth. And I talk to computer people and they say, hey, we do this all the time with any number of things. But then when Job and Family Services is trying to move forward on a sophisticated, and maybe we're trying to make it too sophisticated. It's kind of back, if you go back, 7 years ago, when we were coming out with the system where the law changed and said that if you have a person is mandated by the court to pay for child support, they no longer write a check themselves and send it to the previous spouse, but that's deducted by the employer, and the employer sends it to the state, and then the state sends it to the person that received it. And gosh, it took us years to get that straight to where it worked properly, and I think now I very seldom get complaints on that, so it must be finally got to where, so that I was happy that we finally have got that to a system, but the waste, fraud, and abuse we're still struggling with. And with the economy the way it is, that's a huge, well, and you look at the federal level, and the president's projecting that they're going to save $500 billion, not million, $500 billion a year on waste, fraud, and abuse in that same category. So if those dollars are there at the federal level, you could imagine states like ours, if we could really get a control on that, there's lots of money there that we would be able to help work toward job creation.